Here's the build number that I think will answer your question about what happens if we put the big numbers in that Excel says is going to happen. If we get away with the really low startup cost for a muni, you would see your bill, it is an average, residential bills, commercial bills. Today, Excel, 650 kilowatt hours a month, except for taxes. So I don't have sales tax on here, and I don't have the carbon action plan tax, but except for taxes, your bill would be about 76 bucks a month today. And with our base case 300 million startup, which I think is quite conservative, you'd be about 4 bucks a month less than that. So with everything added in, all gas grid, 50% carbon dioxide reduction, and you're going to get a savings on your bill. If it's 600 million in startup, it's twice as big. So it's 6 years of Boulder revenues rather than 3 years of Boulder revenues. The impact on the bill would be an increase of about $14. And that's just the first 25 years. You have to, first 30 years, you have to finance it.
$10.
Oh, $10 today. Yes, it would be $14 more than what we would do if startup costs were lower.
Do you know what that translates to kilowatt hours since you've done the other ones in kilowatt hours? Just
650 per month.
I think she's asking us
the price per kilowatt hour is just, like
That would
the
be
renewables.
8.
I don't have that number. No. It's
I
about.
can
It's
do
very.
that.
It's very similar. We can throw it in the Homer and have it in a moment.
We haven't divided.
So I'd like to. I mean, to me, this is a wonderful, wonderful number. We start out less.
Yeah.
If we pay 300 million, which is significantly more, that's 80 million in stranded costs. And if we move down here to a much higher carbon dioxide reduction, this is the case that's at the knee, which I think might be a really interesting case to move towards. It's $5 more a month to be able to reduce our carbon dioxide emissions by 70% and have 40% of our kilowatt hours coming from
Are your sites going to be on the website?
Don't know yet. It's a good point of discussion. We
You know,
haven't-
Excel's rates are going up, I think, around 7% for the year. Are you figuring in the same 7%?
Yes,
You know. Thank you. This is from the Nexent report on Excel's electricity rates. Excel took over from PUC about right in here, which is where the holes in the grid are. Dotted lines are constant dollars, like today's 2011 dollars, and the green and red is just Boulder versus Excel. So I think you can see the trend here. I think you can see the trend here. This is Excel's rate forecast, again, as reported by the Nexent report. So if we're talking about how long is it going to be until we're at that really scary 11.5 cents a kilowatt hour, about 2014.
So it looks like from that graph, though, that our rates are going to be rising at the same rate as Excel's. You know, they're just slower to start with.
This is just Excel's. This is what it costs in Boulder on the Excel grid and what it costs on their system as a whole.
Okay.
These are Excel's, these are Nexent's numbers. They don't have us compared. Frank's going to do that. I'm trying to get through this so Frank can. Okay, everything we said, I've told you so far, is not true. It's going to be better than this, and here's why. Real natural gas turbines today are cheaper than what we modeled. We used Excel's price, actually more than Excel's price, about 50% more. I forget why we did that. Tom had some compelling reason. But at a real $1,000 per kilowatt, yeah, I want to be conservative. Natural gas turbines today are more efficient than what we modeled. They're 10% higher efficiency than what we've got. So they're approaching 60% efficient. Cost of everything renewable is falling really quickly. 50% reduction in the cost of solar in the last 4 years. You can do demand reduction, which is peak shaving, which can save up to 5% of the cost of your annual energy bill. These are system-wide things. We can do energy efficiency efforts. Another city consultant said that we can reduce costs and consumption by 20%. There's cogeneration, Peter mentioned last night, biomass generation, electric vehicles, heat pumps, absolutely everything brings down the costs that we've shown you. Deploy these things that are up here on the slide and it reduces the cost of electricity. And the thing about natural gas, fracking as it is, unpleasant as it can be, is that it enables more renewables and you can use more renewables, which lets you use less gas over time.
How much of that is tied to the economy?
not improving?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
How much of that is tied to the economy not improving?
How much of what is tied to the economy not improving?
Those, the last slide.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, will the cost of solar and or wind go back up when the economy improves?
I doubt it. Mostly there's more and more being produced. So typically what you find when you look at cost reduction curves of any technology is they continue down and then they get acid.
But demand has decreased.
I don't think they will go up. You're asking my opinion? I don't think they'll ever go back up. That's my opinion. There's a glut right now for sure, but they're still continuing to build these plants. So.
And we have a debate on that in the group, and that's why we, we looked at the higher, we did look at the higher price.
So this is my last slide, and so then I'll get out of here and Frank gets his half hour. I cannot imagine being in favor of something that isn't scalable. If Boulder is going to be something, if Boulder is going to be responsible to itself and account for its own carbon emissions and pay for it, it can't lean on a coal grid. If we leaned on a coal grid and just said we're always going to use our neighbor's power whenever our renewables aren't producing, then we really need to account for the emissions of the rest of that. And curtailing renewables so you can keep your coal plant running is just greenwashing. It's just garbage. That's my personal opinion, and I really. I think electrical rates under a muni will be cheaper than they are under an IOU. And it's just this simple. You don't have to take the slice for the profit out of it. You hear about these economies of scale and greater efficiencies in the private sector that are supposed to be able to keep those costs down, but when you find, when you look around, you do surveys of municipal utilities around the country, you find that they're typically less expensive than
It's been that way for 100 years.
There you go. There you go. To me, the flexibility of a muni is really appealing. I don't care if it sells, who we use for providers. We could use independent power producers, we can use some flavor of Excel, but the flexibility allows not only local innovation, it keeps the jobs local, everything that Fufu Boulder's been talking about localization, I think really is about the flexibility to be able to kind of make your own decisions. I think, however, that the governance is critical. I do not think that this should become a cash cow for every cause that the city of Boulder wants to fund by taxing people through their rates. So I think that the governance.
Do you want to go speak?
Got that dinner.
I have an anniversary coming up. Now you know everything. Governance is critical. I really truly believe that I want to keep businesses local. I'm a businessman. And I think that the impact on businesses should be similar to what it is now. You take your average utility rate now, you add 35% to that rate to come up with your homeowner's utility rate, and you take 10% off for your businesses. And I think we want to keep businesses in this community. It's really important. The cost of living is high enough as it is, so that governance piece is, I think, crucial.
When you're talking about scalability, are you talking about our selling power to other cities?
I'm talking about the ability to take the blend. So if we have 100 megawatts of gas and 20 megawatts of wind, for instance, I would like us to be able to talk about expanding that 5 times and have 500 megawatts of gas and 100 megawatts of wind, so that the balancing of those is something that other communities could adopt. Whereas I don't want it to be something like, say we put 200 megawatts of wind out on the plains, and if the next, which is 70 to 90%, and the next community that wants that deal eventually can't get it because there's already too much coal being burned. I would invite you to talk with Tom or me or Leslie, and we can talk about base load and the way coal and nuclear plants are run and how it keeps renewables off the grid. I do not believe that investor-owned utilities are Satan. I think that they need to adjust their business model. I really honestly believe that there's a place in the private sector for power producers, for people who run distribution grids, for all kinds of things. I'm not sure that the way the PUC is set up to deal with the regulated monopoly is a good model moving forward. It doesn't allow innovation to come on fast enough, doesn't allow for local control. So if I was sitting in the Excels bunker, I would be thinking, how can I make hay out of this opportunity that's coming up? What can I do that's going to keep me alive? I would say, why don't we decouple? Why don't we decouple rates from the number of kilowatt hours? My bill should only partially be related to the number of kilowatt hours because I'm paying for this service that whenever I turn the light switch on, that light comes on every time. And that's an important service. So, you know, they're decoupled in California. What's wrong with here? And another way to do it, and I'm just thinking outside of the box, we've got more than one IOU in this state. We've got, what is it, Black Hills down in Pueblo. Why not a separate IOU for Boulder? If it's cheaper and makes more sense, there's no reason that any local energy authority couldn't agree to that as a possibility. And I think that many citizens in Boulder want an ethical and local, reliable grid. So thank you for your time.